Every trader has imagined the same moment. The resignation email, the final commute, the last alarm clock, the day they finally become a full-time trader. No boss, no meetings, no asking permissions, just charts, freedom. And if you've been trading for any length of time, you've probably imagined it too. Maybe more than once. Because when you're sitting in traffic or answering emails you don't care about, or staring at the clock, waiting for the time to end, it's easy to believe the problem is time. If I just had more time, if I just had more hours, if I could finally watch the charts all day, if I could finally focus on trading properly, everything would change. And maybe it would, but probably not in the way most traders think. Because something strange happens when trading becomes your only source of income. A lot of traders don't become calmer, they become more emotional. A lot of traders don't become more disciplined, they become more reactive. They don't become more selective, they become more desperate. And the reason is simple. The moment trading becomes responsible for your survival, it stops feeling like a game of probabilities and starts feeling personal. You stop trading setups, you start trading pressure. You trade your rent, you trade bills, you trade the fear that maybe you went wrong, maybe your decision was wrong, and pressure changes people quietly at first, then all at once. That's why some traders become more disciplined with 2 hours after work than they do with 12 hours of freedom. Because sometimes your job isn't holding you back. It's the only structure stopping you from destroying yourself. And that's where most traders misunderstand the problem. Because the issue isn't actually time. Most traders already have enough time to become profitable. The real issue is what happens when freedom removes structure. Because freedom sounds incredible, right up until your survival depends on it. And once you understand that, another uncomfortable truth starts to appear. Retail traders are obsessed with freedom. Freedom from alarms, freedom from commuting, freedom from managers, freedom from schedules, freedom from asking somebody else for permission to live their own life. And honestly, that sounds reasonable. That really does sound reasonable until you look a little deeper, because most traders don't actually want freedom. They want relief. Relief from stress, relief from pressure, relief from work they dislike, relief from feeling trapped, and trading becomes the cleanest looking version of that escape. Because unlike gambling, trading sounds productive. Unlike quitting, trading sounds ambitious. Unlike running away, trading sounds responsible. Building a trading career, that's the story. But underneath that story, there's often one thing hiding. I hate my current career. I hate my life. I need something to change. And that's a dangerous mindset, because trading is many things, but it is not a rescue plan. The market does not remove your weaknesses, it exposes them. If you're impatient, it will expose it. If you're emotional, it will expose it. If you struggle with discipline, that's getting exposed as well. If you're looking for certainty, that is certainly getting exposed. Because more time doesn't automatically make you better. Sometimes it just gives your bad habit a bit more room to breathe. You check more charts, you force more trades, you move stops, you re-enter emotionally, you start seeing opportunities that aren't actually there. It's like opening the oven every 3 minutes, wondering why the food isn't cooking faster. You're not improving the process, you're just disturbing it. And that's what unrestricted screen time does to most traders. It gives them unlimited access to their own worst impulses. And this is where things start getting dangerous, because freedom becomes something very different when your income starts depending on it. Because once survival enters the equation, everything changes. And this is where things quietly become dangerous, because no one talks about what happens after the dream. Everyone talks about getting there. Very few people talk about living there. The moment trading becomes your primary source of income, your relationship with risk changes. A losing trade doesn't feel like a losing trade anymore. It feels personal. A missed setup doesn't feel like a missed setup. It feels expensive. A red week doesn't feel like variance. It feels like danger. And once danger enters the equation, something changes psychologically. You stop thinking in probabilities and start thinking in outcomes. You need this trade to work. You need this week to work. You need this market to cooperate. The market has a brutal way of punishing people who need certainty, because desperate traders start demanding certainty from a market that cannot provide it. They stop executing. They start negotiating with losses, negotiating with reality. Just one more trade, just a little more room, just one more chance. And that's how discipline quietly disappears. Not through one big mistake, through 1,000 tiny compromises, because pressure bends behavior. That's what pressure does. A calm trader can wait. A desperate trader needs something to happen. And that need is where accounts get destroyed. Not because traders are stupid, not because your strategy stops working, because survival changes decision making. It's hard to think clearly when every candle feels connected to your future. A losing trade isn't just a losing trade anymore. It's rent, it's groceries, it's next month's bills. It's proof that maybe you made a mistake, and the heavier that pressure becomes, the more expensive, the more emotionally expensive patience feels. Which is exactly why your job can protect you from that. Because your salary creates distance. Distance from desperation. Distance from survival pressure. Distance from needing the market to do anything today. And that emotional distance matters far more than most traders realize. Because emotional distance creates patience, and patience creates better decisions, which creates a strange question. If pressure is a problem, could having less time actually be an advantage? Because the answer is more uncomfortable than most traders expect. Now, here's the irony. The thing most traders are trying to escape is often the thing protecting them. Structure. A job forces structure, whether you like it or not. You don't get to stare at the charts all day because you're busy for 12 hours. You don't get to chase every candle. You don't get to manufacture opportunities out of boredom. And strangely, that is an edge. That is the edge. Because most traders assume more screen time equals more progress. But that's rarely how trading works. In fact, for many traders, more screen time simply means more opportunities to interfere. You're not helping, you're interrupting the process. And most traders spend years doing exactly that. More charts, more pairs, more indicators, more analysis, more activity, more involvement, as if activity and progress are the same thing. But in trading, they're often opposites. Professional trading is surprisingly boring, painfully boring sometimes. Quiet, slow, uneventful. You wait, you observe, you let price come to you, you let the setup develop, and if nothing happens, you do nothing. That sounds simple, but emotionally, it's brutal, because inactivity feels like failure, especially when social media is showing everybody making money every 5 minutes, especially when everybody else looks busy, especially when your brain wants stimulation. But often, doing nothing is the trade. And that's one of the hardest lessons in trading. The full-time worker learns this lesson faster because they don't have the opportunity to interfere. They need structure, they need selectivity, they need efficiency. And those limitations quietly build discipline. Not motivational discipline, not discipline that exists when you're inspired. Real discipline, the kind that survives boredom, the kind that survives uncertainty, the kind that survives when nobody's watching. And that kind of discipline actually scales, because freedom doesn't make disciplined traders. Disciplined traders earn freedom. So if your job is quietly creating discipline, if it's creating patience, if it's creating selectivity, then maybe the goal isn't to escape structure. Maybe the goal is to learn from it. Which brings us to the practical question. How do you actually turn that advantage into better trading? This is where the conversation becomes practical, because if a job is secretly helping you trade better, the question becomes, what do you want to do with that advantage? First step is simple. Stop treating your job like it's an obstacle and start treating it like it's part of your trading system. Most traders spend years fighting reality, trying to force a full-time trading lifestyle while living a part-time trading life. And that tension creates frustration. Instead, build around the life you currently have, not the life you wish you had. Trade one session, not random chart checking throughout the day, one execution window, one focused block, one deliberate routine, then simplify your decision making. Most traders don't need more information, they need fewer decisions. Every additional decision creates another opportunity for emotion to leak into execution, another opportunity for fear, another opportunity for hesitation, another opportunity for impulse. And over time, those small emotional leaks sinks the ship. So reduce them, master the setup, not 10, not whatever strategy social media discovered this week. One setup, one pattern, one repeatable process, something you can recognize quietly and quickly. Journal honestly and execute consistently until it becomes boring, because boring is where consistency begins. The market does not pay traders for being entertained, it pays traders for executing, and execution becomes easier when the process becomes simple enough to repeat again and again and again. Then reduce your trade frequency. Most traders think more trades create more opportunities, but often they just create more mistakes, more emotional decisions, more opportunities to interfere, more opportunities to sabotage yourselves. The goal is not activity, the goal is quality, and quality usually looks boring from the outside. Then journal behavior, not just your profits, because bad behavior can make money and good behavior can lose money. That is one of the most dangerous things about trading. The market can reward temporary stupidity and can punish disciplined temporarily, which is why results alone are a terrible teacher. Judge behavior first, results second, because behavior compounds, execution compounds, discipline compounds, and eventually the outcome catches up. And finally, stop romanticizing full-time trading, because quitting your job does not remove your psychological weaknesses, it amplifies them. If you're impatient now, you're probably going to be impatient when on limited time. If you overtrade now, you're still probably going to overtrade. If you struggle with discipline now, freedom won't magically solve that. Freedom doesn't create discipline. Discipline is what makes freedom safe. And that's the lesson most traders learn too late, because freedom isn't the goal. What freedom does to your psychology is. And once you understand that, the entire conversation changes, because the real advantage was never more time. It was becoming the kind of person who could use their time properly. So let's bring this full circle. Your trading is not automatically stopping you from becoming profitable. For some traders, it's the only thing keeping their psychology stable enough to survive the markets, because trading does not reward obsession, it rewards emotional control. And emotional control becomes much easier when your survival does not depend on the next candle. That's the irony. The traders desperate to escape structure are often the ones destroyed by freedom. And the traders who learn discipline inside structure eventually earn freedom properly, not emotionally, not desperately, professionally. And maybe that's the part nobody wants to hear, because it's not exciting, it's not glamorous, and it doesn't sell courses. But it is the truth. The market doesn't care. It doesn't care how badly you want it. It doesn't care how many hours you spend staring at charts. It doesn't care whether you're full-time or you're part-time. It only cares about one thing. Can you execute consistently under uncertainty? That's it. And for most traders, the battle is not against the market. It's against themselves. Their impulses, their need for certainty, their inability to sit still, their desire to speed up a process that cannot be sped up, their desire to speed up a process that cannot be rushed. Trading is a lot like planting seeds. Amateurs dig up the soil every day, checking if anything is growing. Professionals understand something different. Growth is quiet, it's slow, it's boring, it's structured, and eventually it's visible. The problem is that most traders want visible results before they've even built invisible discipline, and that's why so many people fail. Not because they lack information, but because they never developed the psychological foundations required to use it. So if you're watching this while balancing work, responsibilities, exhaustion, family, life, trading on the side, you're not behind. You may actually be building the exact foundations most traders skip: the patience, the structure, the emotional distance, and the discipline. The things nobody posts about on social media, the things nobody brags about. It is the things that quietly determines who survives. And honestly, that might become your biggest edge. If you're balancing a full-time job, responsibilities, exhaustion, and still trying to become a better trader, you're exactly who this channel is for, because most traders and teaches strategy. I'm far more interested in the psychology that determines whether you can actually execute one. The hidden behaviors, the thing that quietly separates profitable traders from everyone else. If that conversation interests you, subscribe. We've only scratched the surface, and let me know in the comments, do you think more time would improve your trading, or would more structure? Because I think most traders have the answer backwards.